Tennessee's team this season would beat the 2022 team by double digits, and I have no doubt in my mind. Caleb Calhoun, am I right or wrong? And we'll look at it position by position as you can read about it on offthehooksports.com. But Caleb, we'll go through it, and I will absolutely convince you if you don't believe me, or convince everybody else if they think I'm crazy.
I think they would win. I don't think they would win by double digits. I think that offense is for 2022 is just too potent and they'd be able to hang. But I do think they would win. I do think this team would win. And I think it'd be a massive shootout.
Okay. I do too. I agree with you on the latter part. Okay. So the poll question is this: Tennessee's team this season would beat the 2022 team. Yes or no? So if you can go ahead and put that on the poll, Caleb, I would greatly appreciate that. And then we're going to break down position by position why I think that Tennessee would win. And again, you can check it out on offthehooksports.com, offthehooksports.com. We certainly hope you check that out. It's all free. So support our sponsors. You don't have to worry about pop-up ads and all that crazy stuff, and you get great coverage of the Vols and opinions that matter. All right, step by step. I'm going Tennessee's defensive line. We're going to look at each single position. Tennessee's defensive line is better in 2024. I don't think there's really any doubt about that, correct?
Yeah, and by the way, the defensive line in 2022 wasn't bad. That was actually a strength of the defense, but it's better in 2024.
Yep. You had Byron Young, of course, and you had Tyler Barron, who we thought was good, but they basically ran him off. So I think that
he's playing well, by the way, at Miami. Playing really well.
Yep. But I wonder where he would be in this lineup, because now we know Dominique Bailey's pretty good and we know other guys are good. So I mean, he would play, but would he play as much as he wants to? I don't know. Defensive backs. It's not, excuse me. That's my bad. I don't think it's going out on a limb to say they're much better now.
Significantly better. If for any other reason, then they have a lockdown corner, which they didn't have in 2022. I'm not sure how the rest of the secondary shakes out compared to each other, because honestly, this secondary hasn't had to be that good because of how amazing the front has been. But I'll say that if Jermon McCoy were on that team in 2022, they are at the very least beating South Carolina.
Okay, I think Jermon McCoy, I still think they're untested, but I think Jermon McCoy is reason enough to say they're better. And certainly statistically, that would prove that. I don't think it's close. Linebackers, Keenan Pili and Arian Carter, not to mention you have depth, Jeremiah Thielander, you have Caleb Perry, and I think Edwin Spillman may be a star at some point, but he's just a freshman. In 2022, you had Jawan Mitchell and Aaron Beasley. You had Jeremy Banks, who was supposed to be a big-time playmaker, but was a big-time troublemaker instead. I don't think this one's close. I'm taking Tennessee's linebackers this year.
Yeah. Yes. Linebackers are significantly better. And Will West finally said what I've been saying, which is I thought I was alone not being high on Beasley. And then there was all this hype of him going into last year, and he didn't really live up to it. He just wasn't an SEC linebacker, guys. And Jeremy Banks was a cancer on top of the fact that he was a one-dimensional linebacker. The linebackers this year are it's night and day. They're leaps and bounds better at linebacker, guys.
Okay, let's get to the offense. I know everybody wants to talk about that. So I want to turn to the offense. What is the poll question again? Can you reset that one, my friend?
Would this year's Tennessee team beat the 2022 Vols? Yes, 81%. No, 19%.
Okay. All right. To the offense, brought to you by Quality Tire Pro. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd or online at qualitytirepros.com. Qualitytirepros.com. I tell Bo that Dave and Off the Hook Sports said, hey, Bo. All right. As far as the offense, now we're going to get to quarterback. Don't worry. But let's start with the offensive line.
And
they had Darnell Wright, Tennessee has a big problem this year at offensive tackle and perhaps elsewhere if anybody gets injured. So 2022 was a better offensive line. It's tough to make the argument otherwise after what we saw on Saturday against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm actually going to say the offensive line was significantly better in 2022. Like, we're not. I mean, Darnell Wright is such an upgrade over John Campbell or Dane Davis at right tackle, and that's all due respect to them. And on the left side, when you had Gerald Mincey and Jeremiah Crawford alternating, as of this moment, that was more proven than Lance Hurd.
I agree. That's fair. And we're going to get to what's happening with Hurd here in a little bit. Hit like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If you want to send a super chat, it goes to Quincy Calhoun's college fund. That's Caleb's 3-month-old little boy. All right, receivers 2024. Now, had Cedric Tillman not gotten hurt early in 2022 and really never came back, he tried. Maybe there's an argument there. Brew McCoy stepped in his place, proved to be a good player. Other than that, you had White. I'm sorry. Other than that, you had, of course, Jalen Hyatt, who won the Biletnikoff Award. And you had Squirrel White, and you had a little bit of Ramel Keaton. But I know this sounds insane, and you can call me out if you want to, but I would take these group of receivers over the 2022 receivers. And I'm well aware that Jalen Hyatt won a Biletnikoff Award as the nation's top receiver. So that sounds insano. I know. I'm curious because Caleb and I don't hash this stuff out before the show. We like to have our fresh opinions. I could see you going either direction on this, Caleb.
I was going to maybe disagree with you, but what's got me closer to your side? Have y'all seen Jalen Hyatt in the NFL this year? Nobody's throwing his way. The Giants aren't even trying to work him into the offense right now. And you can complain about that, but it's something we thought from the start that maybe he was just a system player. And the reason I'm still going to lean towards 2022 is here's why. I think the ability of these receivers, Dave, are better, but so much of playing receivers is the rapport with the quarterback. And I think the receivers in 2022 had a deep rapport with Hendon Hooker. So, for instance, that interception that Nico Iamaleava threw that we blame on Brew McCoy because it looks like Brew McCoy cut his route the wrong way from what Nico Iamaleava thought Brew McCoy was running. None of the receivers were doing that in 2022 with Hendon Hooker. They were all on the same page. I don't know if what I'm saying is more a quarterback thing than a receiver thing. But
let's address that play for a second, because we talked to Jacob Warren on the Warren Report, brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. We do that every Monday, and he hinted that Brew let up a little bit, and I think that was the case. So if we want to play the blame game, and Jacob didn't want to do that, but we can. To me, that's 70% on Brew, about 30% on Nico for putting it into coverage in the first place. Is that fair?
I mean, if what Jacob said is true, it's to me 0% on Nico. He thought Brew was going to run a certain route, and Brew ran the other route where he let up. And
okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The reason I think that it's some of Nico's fault is because he said after the game, I learned versus NC State not to put it in the coverage.
Okay, that's fair. But either way, it seems the receivers are not. Seems like Nico and the receivers aren't always on the same page right now, at least through the first month. Whereas with Hendon Hooker, I mean, Dave, did you ever see a receiver out of position? They were on the same page with Hooker the entire year. I don't think I've ever seen a collective group more on the same page with their quarterback.
No,
honestly,
I'm all with you there. I'm completely with you. All right, so the next position, again, you can read about this on Off the Hook Sports. Running back, you have to go 2022, right? Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson. You still have Sampson. You have Deshaun Bishop, who has exceeded expectations, in my opinion, but I don't know who the third guy is. And out of the group, Jalen Wright is the most accomplished. Dylan Sampson may change that this season, but I like the power of Jalen Wright and having variety with Dylan Sampson. Now I feel like they just have one.
Yeah, I think that I think the running back position as a collective was definitely better in 2022. Now, remember, September of 2022 versus September of 2022. Now we may say it's about even because Jalen Wright was banged up during that time. And so really you were just Jabari Small versus Dylan Sampson.
And because of that, had a little fumbling issue. So
yes.
that can flip a game too. So, I mean, when you're not able to go out in preseason and get hit, you're more apt to fumble in games. And that happened when they started having full contact. Now, here's the difficult one. Quarterback. Are you talking Hendon Hooker or are you talking Nico? So, Caleb, I know you've made some broad predictions, but I want you to think about it for a moment as I remind people that portions of the program are brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. The link is right below. You'll want to follow them. Caleb, better quarterback situation is Hendon Hooker with more experience in 2022 or Nico right now?
It's still Nico right now, guys. I'm sorry. Nico makes some throws that Hendon Hooker couldn't make. Now, if you want to say who in September were you taking, you could maybe go Hendon Hooker, because now I've come around to the idea, Dave, that Pittsburgh game, maybe Tennessee's not beating Pittsburgh with Nico, because is it fair to say we're underselling Hendon Hooker's leadership to a degree? I mean, nobody really, like, Hendon Hooker is one of the best leaders Tennessee's had since the 98 national title team. I think that's safe to say.
No, I would agree with that, but let's not discount Nico's leadership, which I'm told over and over is incredible, but it's for a younger player. He's probably never going to be a rah-rah guy, but you would have said, I think, the same thing about Hendon Hooker when he was young. I mean, that's something.
Well, that's what I mean. This isn't, we're talking about a 6th-year senior in Hendon Hooker. Everybody followed him. And versus a redshirt freshman in Nico Iamaleava, who is trying to find his footing. I'm not blaming Nico for this at all. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I just talked about the rapport with the quarterback and the receivers and players being on the wrong routes. Part of that is the receivers weren't going to miss those things with Hendon Hooker. They weren't going to get those things wrong. And so I think that's part of that is because of Hendon Hooker's leadership. So I think that you will see. So I think that does make it close. But guys, if you just use your eyes, just use the eye test. Nico makes better throws than Hendon Hooker. He's actually deceptively as mobile as Hendon Hooker because he takes long strides when he runs. Do you notice that? And yeah. So when you put those two things together, guys, as far as an actual quarterback, Nico's better. And I love Hendon Hooker, but Nico's a better quarterback.
Now, I want to be clear. You're talking about heading into October of 2022 to 2024. In other words, if Hendon Hooker, the NFL and the NCAA gave him a special exemption and he was suddenly on the team, you're telling me that Josh Heupel would play Nico over Hendon Hooker?
Yes.
I think you're right. I wanted to argue, but I think you're right. I think the Joe Milton experiment and year to let Nico grow worked for this year, but I think he's ready to branch off with a more talented quarterback.
I agree. And I know it hasn't shown yet, and people who have watched both would say it would totally. I understand why you would side with Hooker to this point, but I'm sorry, Nico has made some throws that Hendon Hooker just couldn't make. It seems so simple, but Dave, that touchdown pass to Dante Thornton, Hooker would not have put it on the money the way Nico did right there over the middle.
I tend to agree with that. I think he's more accurate, especially in the intermediate throws. Now, he's more accurate all over the field than Joe Milton, but if we really want to nitpick, I think the two are equally as accurate downfield.
They are.
But I think that 20 in, that you would take Nico if the game is throw the ball through the old tire hanging on the tree.
Right, exactly. And Nico, he may be a little more accurate downfield too. Hooker every now and then missed the downfield throw. And now Nico has too.
I will say this. I had an NFL scout tell me that he had elite deep touch, like best in the country.
Oh, he does, but so does Nico.
Okay. I'm not ready to go that far with you, but we'll see.